yeah, folks, we're going to get into it. But look, let's start off with the Nate the Hate post from yesterday, gentlemen. And again, Nate the Hate, you can take him, you can leave him. Some people trust what he has to say, other people don't. Look, I don't know Nate personally. I've used his stuff before. The guy's connected. Now, is he how connected? I'm not going to try and I'm not going to answer that question. I have no idea. But he's been right more times than he's been wrong. Now, what's that percentage, folks? I don't follow it that close. I'm 54. I got 5 shows to run every week. I'm not in the trenches like that. But what I can say is I do have his post. And again, this was from Nate the Hate's YouTube account. Twitter account, and it was actually posted by VGT Gaming News. And this is what Nate the Hate had to say yesterday. He says more Sony games will come to Xbox, yes. And this, of course, him responding to Clute or Abdel114 in the chat says regarding Horizon. Says I don't know anything about Lego Horizon going to Xbox. But even if it did, would anyone care? And I mean that's a fair take. I would care because I like Lego games. I like Horizon as an IP, and a lot of people don't. That's fine, but I would care, and I would gladly buy it. And you know what? Again, it's done, folks. It's literally completed for Xbox. That's not a thought. That's not a theory. That is factual. I talked to someone who knows for a fact that is literally done. So that's going to be, it could be the first one. I think it's going to be Spider-Man. And I think if you just take a look at what happened yesterday, there was an announcement, a strategic partnership with Virtuos, who just did the Oblivion remake. And let's call it a spade a spade. It's got 9 million players in just a pinch over 3 months. The original banger on the 360 and PS3 only had 9.6 million lifetime players. Think about that for a second. That's how big this IP is, and that is how well it was done. And I think that strategic partnership, how quickly they get started on it and finished, I don't know because I'm not a developer. But I would imagine that's going to be for some of the stuff that they have. Maybe it's for older IP. Maybe it's like trying to bring forward the Sly Cooper collection or the Jack and Daxter collection or something like that. Yes, please. I will definitely gladly play that on Xbox because it's not going to be PlayStation exclusive. That's going to launch as a multi-plat. And the reason why it will is because of how well Oblivion is doing on PlayStation literally right now. But let's get into Korkenstein, what Nate the Hate had to say. Again, there are people who we don't name names here on this show, still in their feelings, still trying to like literally carve out specific sentences, put it together. This is like a Sherlock Holmes mystery that we're working with. Like they're cutting sentences out of each paragraph to fit a narrative about how it's not happening. And folks, I mean, listen, maybe people don't have reading comprehension like I do, and I'm trained, to read things and understand them a different way that many people are because I did that. That's what was part of my job. It is what it is, man. They are going third party. Are they going full slate third party? I kind of think that they are. How long they get there before everything is on there? It could be 3 years, 5 years, but listen. Ladies and gentlemen, all it takes is one. Helldivers is selling very well right now. If Spider-Man launches on Xbox, I am telling you, it is going to chart on Xbox. Bless you. And it is going to sell 5 million copies. It's Spider-Man. Let's get your thought on the post from Nate the Hate. Again, whether you take him or you leave him, he does know his stuff and he is well connected. And he's not saying anything that's breaking news. I could literally come out and say the same thing. Oh, there's going to be more PlayStation games going. It's just common sense. But coming from him, it's a little bit more pointed because he does have connections and he does know people in the business. Let's get your thoughts on this changing gaming space for Sony.
Yeah, I mean, I also like how you tapped into your like kind of like Ric Flair, where you were like goalpost moving, tap dancing, ice skating.
I gotta start doing the strut.
Yeah, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's silly, guys. You got it. The name of the game, and you can ask anyone this that works in the industry. Casual consumers are the biggest part of the industry. They're your biggest consumer base. That's who you market to. You want to know why? We'll probably talk about this later with Battlefield. You want to know why Call of Duty adds Beavis and Butthead and all these other characters and stuff? It's not for the hardcore gamers. It's for people that are fans. It's same thing with Fortnite. They do the same thing. They get popular pop culture IPs that resonate with casual gamers, casual fans of the show, hardcore fans of the show, people, things like that. It's the casual consumer base is what they're aiming for. When you have something like The Last of Us, which is now an HBO hit sensation, even my parents watched The Last of Us. That's how big it got, and they had no idea it was a game, and they absolutely loved it. When you're when you're doing stuff like that, that's your new market now, and it's going to make sense. People push back on me as well. The Last of Us will come to Xbox more than likely. There's such a huge casual following behind that game. It doesn't make any sense why they would be like, nah, too many people like this game, we're not going to sell it. We have 30 plus million people that might buy this game on this consumer base, but no, we got to stay strong behind this plastic box. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to sell to the casual consumer. If we learn anything when it comes to Spider-Man, look at what happened when the Insomniac leak came out. Their margins were kind of low compared for what that, and their royalties they were paying, the licensing, the money's being taken off. Every place, that bundle that they had, the money being taken off, every bundle sold, all of that stuff factored in, and they even ballooned their budget because of that. Their margins were low, and they're going to look at that and be like, well, how can we get these margins higher? You sell on a different ecosystem. You open up your ecosystem. You put your games on other platforms, and they tried with PC. I don't know the PC numbers. I don't know how well they did. But you still have, like I said, 35, 40 million consoles out there for Xbox. Why wouldn't they try and even get 10% of that? That's my math is horrible. 4 million? Would that be?
Mean,
why wouldn't they try and get that market share? Go ahead.
Check this out. Let me add some numbers to your for context here. Let's just say Insomniac helps Nixxes do this port, and it's the port that came to the PS5 in the form of Spider-Man 2018 Remastered and Miles Morales. It's a 2-pack. They sell it on Xbox, not Game Pass. They sell it on Xbox for $70. If they only move 1 million copies, and I think that is preposterous. Again, it's Miles, it's Spider-Man, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. People would line up to get it. I'd be one of them.
100%. And you bring up a great point. It's porting. They're not rebuilding this, because a bunch of people are like, why would they waste the money? They're not making a whole new game. Right. The reason why they port is because the return of investment, the ROI, is significantly cheaper to port than it is to start from the ground up, where they're re-recording voice lines, getting mocap redone, redoing assets, rebuilding levels from the ground up. They're not doing any of that. They're not making a brand new game. All they're doing is taking what they've already have and optimizing it and porting it for another platform. That's not asset recreation for the most part, unless they're doing like a major remaster, kind of like what Virtuosos did with the Oblivion remake. That's definitely something that's a total kind of ground up rebuilt, and that probably was still already using assets that they've they and audio, and they had to record some new stuff. But even then, that's not building a brand new game with new code and things like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that actually goes into these development, these games. And that's why it's porting, is because the ROI is a lot better because you're not wasting that much resources. You can have a small team and bring something like masterful, like the Oblivion remake. So yeah, I like I said, we've talked about it. I heard the same thing like 3 weeks ago. It's already done. Lego Horizon, sitting waiting. It would just be stupid for PlayStation to have their pride. What company is going to put their pride over profits? What company is going to sit there and, like I said earlier, it's PlayStation brand and we got to stand up for our pony brethren, and we're going to miss out on millions and millions and millions of dollars, especially during a slow generation where our first party output has been pretty low, where we don't have very many live service games bringing in reoccurring income, reoccurring revenue. They don't have a lot of that. I mean, who knows? I mean, we could even go down the path, maybe the Xbox games are selling better because PlayStation has no games right now. That could also be another point, that why they're taking off is because, we're gamers. People want to play games, and right now PlayStation doesn't have them. That could be another thing. But I mean, whatever it is, PlayStation needs to figure out how they can increase their MAUs, which is the monthly active users. They are in a decline. That's the thing. I got into the argument with that one guy. They are up overall, but they're seeing a steady drop off because they haven't had a lot that came out. It was just Astrobot, and then that's kind of it. So they are seeing a decline in MAUs, and you don't want that. As many times as people have said, Xbox has been dead, and they're we got Paris in the chat. Buy a PS5. Xbox is dead.
There he is, Mr. Troll himself. I love it.
The MAUs and live service is what's kept Xbox going. It's not exclusive. It's not hardware sales. Yeah, they matter, but they're not the revenue driver that those MAUs are. You need reoccurring revenue, and that's live service. That's subscription service. And that's what Xbox has, and that's why they've always been growing and growing and growing. And now they're into this just beast of a company that they are at Xbox, with all these games and studios behind them, because they had that reoccurring revenue. They had the live service, they have the multiplayer, and they have the MAUs, and they keep growing every year over year. And that's what PlayStation wants to get in, and that's why they're going to go multi-plat. So you guys can fight it as much as you want. It's gonna happen. Now, I don't think, will they make God of War? Probably not. I mean, unless there's a big I know there's a TV show coming out for it, but I don't think God of War. I mean, I think they'll still have some tentpole titles that will stay exclusive. That makes sense.
I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Hashtag no red lines.
You could be right. Maybe once they see it and they start seeing like, oh man, we're just killing it on Xbox right now.
Yes.
Kay Asante and I had the same conversation like months ago, that the more that Xbox invades the PlayStation space, the worse it is for PlayStation right now.
Yeah.
And look, it turned out to be true, because now there are 6 out of 10 games that are in the top 10 for PlayStation. That's bad for PlayStation. That's people, they all championed it. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, finally people are buying Xbox games, and PlayStation's getting 30% back. That's operating costs for the most part, to put it on there, to fund it, to do all that stuff. It's they may make some revenue from it, but it's not going to be the same revenue as if they had the 70% that they're getting back from that title being sold. They're not getting that unless they port to another ecosystem. So that's just what it is. People can fight it all they want. It's coming. It's gonna happen. Money talks, and your little pony pride isn't gonna save PlayStation, and no exec is gonna turn down millions and millions of dollars, because they want a console war. The console wars have been dead. They've always been dead, and they've never really mattered as much as they did. For me, it was something that the media just kind of portrayed and pushed out. the gaming media there that was like console sales, and it turned out it wasn't that important at the time, maybe, but not anymore. But people still use it as a narrative for some reason. It's really, really weird. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Get used to it, guys. PlayStation games are coming to Xbox.
I mean, look, Crispy Bomb, I want to bring you in, but I want to set up these dominoes for a second, right? Like, Korkenstein brought up a lot of great points about why Sony is going to do this. And I just want to put this for context, because obviously I'm all about evidence-based conversation. If there is one thing that Sony finds themselves behind the eight ball for, it's the fact that they lost a lot of money on studios and games that they were making that they're no longer making. Right? The most egregious one is Concord. And I'm not saying it to be a jerk. I'm saying that was a $400 million bath that they can't make money on. Now, if you want to take it and kind of just pause for a second and just look back, there was an investment in Bungie for $3.6 billion. That was a knee-jerk reaction to what Xbox and Microsoft was doing with Activision. And as we know, as the story's been told multiple times, they were expected to come in and be the savior for this new ideology of games as a service. And what wound up happening? What is the one particular one that just jumps off the page for everybody? It's The Last of Us Online that got canceled. Like, the way the story goes is Bungie was like, yeah, that's not going to make any money. And they canceled it. And a lot of people were waiting on that game. And that, I think, still could have made money for them. But apparently Bungie said no. Now, this is where you get into, well, who's going to save the savior? Because Bungie finds themselves in a really bad position, right? Marathon, that game is cursed. Like, everything that they have had with that game has been one rake step after another. And the last one was the stealing of the art assets. And it wasn't just one artist, it was three, at least three that I know of. That's bad news, man. So that game was so poorly put together, it's been delayed until 2026. Now, again, take it with a grain of salt. There was a story that was floating around. I can't confirm it, but again, take it with a grain of salt, that because of the delay and the cancellation of these games, it was ultimately going to cost Sony Corp $1.2 billion in loss. If they don't have any first-party games to sell, and they don't have any more games outside of Gran Turismo, which is a gas game, and that's doing well for them. MLB The Show was in the top 10 most paid for. That's doing well for them. But if that's the only ones that they have, how are they going to make revenue if they don't have any of their first-party bangers coming out, right? I mean, the closest one that we know is Ghost of Yotai. It's probably going to do well. I mean, I'm going to buy it. I don't know how many people in this chat are going to buy it. That's fine. But Crispy, with all of the loss, with the poor investment in Bungie, with Microsoft just making bank on their own store, it only makes sense that what Nate the Hate is saying is going to become a stark reality. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Well, I mean, first of all, I feel like people ignore the fact that, what Cork said, they're publicly traded. So, those numbers, like, you can even hear they have it posted somewhere. I listened to a few people that posted it. Satya's reporting those numbers to the investors. And when you do that, if they skew those numbers like unsurmountably, like, to try to get more investment, that's actually illegal, at least in our country. I'm not sure about other countries. So when you have those numbers and you see a decline, and this is what a Sony person, maybe they put one, they bought one stock. Guess what? They can be a part of that. Okay. So, like, they can find out these numbers on their own ears, hearing them. and look at it and say, how are they making more money than us? How is their stock just hit the $4 trillion mark? And they're giving us some of their exclusives, and they're doing all these things that are just weird and not a part of the what I call the OG console war thought process of Sega versus Nintendo and PlayStation versus both of them and all of these things. And then now PlayStation versus Xbox, and Nintendo kind of just chills. These are things that you have to realize that they look at that and say, well, how are they doing this? We need to figure this out. And I mean, the easiest IP to go really find out. And I'm going to be honest with you, it depends. And I think they already have enough numbers from Helldivers 2 to say this thing is going to sell well. We need to realize that maybe being just full on exclusive and not taking some of these older games and porting them over is illogical to our investors. And when that happens, you start seeing the posts we had, earlier, which was a meltdown. I mean, you guys, I've seen Xbox guys melt down and then they switch to PlayStation and now they're MIA. Okay, missing in action. All right. Maybe you could find some of them. You know who I'm talking about, 2 of them at least. So I need them to understand that no matter what you do, eventually, like, you're gonna have to go to Nintendo. Okay, because that's the only one that's probably they're gonna stay pat for another 10 years probably. Their margins are high, their development cost is low, they have a blueprint, and in the same vein, PlayStation is ballooning. Okay, their budgets are absurd. Just when you hear the Concorde or even the Spider-Man, the numbers that came out for what that costs. These are movie budgets. And, you're not talking about selling a movie ticket. You're talking about selling a $70 game. And, the one saving grace I could say is that, like, a game like Blade, which is a Marvel IP, I think is going to go to PlayStation. That's why they didn't say anything about any consoles or anything like that. But in that aspect, Marvel's probably looking at Sony like, hey, you guys, you don't own these rights. Can you make us some money on this end? And they might feel considerably obliging to that, because guess what? They want to be a part of the MCU. So these are negotiations we have no clue about. But if you really look at the numbers and look at what's going on, regardless of what Microsoft has done and the layoffs and everything else, there was bad news for weeks. Okay. We weren't saying, hey, like, this is the way it should be. No, this is not the way it should be. You should not be making money and laying people off. We don't like that. Now, we understand that maybe it's involving AI, but let's be honest here. AI is not where it will be in another 5 years. So maybe chill out with that. And, we saw that rumor about another 1,000. Like, can you just stop? Because realistically, you can afford it, Microsoft. Let's be honest. On the latter note, Sony can't afford it. And that's why they're closing studios. I mean, who knows what Marathon's going to do? I truly believe, Battlefield and COD, Black Ops 7 coming out, and then you have GTA. When are you going to release that game? Because I'm going to tell you right now, multi-plat or not, it is not hitting anybody. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's like, hey, when is it coming out? I haven't seen nothing. And you know me, Boom, I don't block everybody. I talk to PlayStation guys. Some of them are very cool. They'll throw a little shade. We have a good joke here and there. But, I have a few that I appreciate. And, I do look to them to see how the narrative's going. And right now it's not good. And they're infighting. I mean, I saw a small subset. We had our conversations. We did. I was one of those that, hey, like, if we're going to see games that I want to see, like Gears, do it. You know what I mean? Just do it and, let them experience it. And I think, at the end of the day, that's probably the same thought process they're starting to get to in Sony. But we're talking about, like the original Spider-Man 2018, maybe Miles Morales is added in. And it's like, they might charge 70 for both of them. And they'll see what they make. Now, you have a well-priced game like Helldivers 2 at 40, different story. And it's a gas game. Okay, but they keep saying gas games, and I'm like, dude, what do you have? When's Marathon?
Thank you so much for saying that, because
when's Marathon coming out? Yes. Is Fair Games going to even exist anymore? You cancel the Twisted Metal, okay? Which would have, why would they cancel that when you have a hit TV show?
Which
I just don't understand.
Second season's coming, right? So,
well, it's already too. Out, and I'm hearing rave reviews.
There
people are loving it, and I'm like, what are you doing? And we would say the same. Like, if they don't do something with Fallout before the second season comes out, or at least around that time, I'd give them a month or so. Even if it's Fallout 3 remaster, whatever, do something with it, because you got this moment to take it all in, and the way the acting and everything else in the Fallout series, I doubt they're going to mess this up. I really doubt it, and that's where I say, I look at this and I say, Sony is more of like a TV company. It's just so weird that they're not looking at it like that. And then you cancel, a co-op Spider-Man game. You know what I mean? Like, you cancel these IPs that have made you money, but adding a new element to it, and saying gas or not. I mean, some of them don't even sound like full-on gas games. And I'm just like, it's okay to have some multiplayer elements in your game, Sony. You don't have to just go full on single player. You used to add some multiplayer in some of your games. I mean, factions, why did you cancel that? I mean, that pissed off a lot of actual PlayStation guys, not stands that are going to talk out of it, to actually play the games. They were mad about that because they thought that was a really good gameplay loop. They enjoyed it, and you probably would have grabbed some new people. These are things that they're doing. They're misstepping. They're going all the way one way, and now they're going all the way back the other way. And it's like, okay, for once, you got to say, Microsoft, hey, we got some single player, we got some multiplayer single player, we got some full-on multiplayer. We got all the stuff you could want, okay? And it's a lot of it, and all of it can be played on Game Pass, okay? And if it's not, you already got Game Pass, you got our games, why not go buy a Helldivers, okay? It's a model that is going to substantiate, and it's clearly growing, you know what I mean? Like, right now, we're looking at a, up to 50% increase from the last numbers shown. So, what are we talking about? I don't understand. And this is where I get on a rant. Why do people say it's unsustainable? Have you not seen all of these darn subscription models continue? Okay. Even the ones you thought were going to die. You know what I mean? Like Peacock or, Paramount. They still keep going. Why do they keep going? They have to be making money somewhere, people. Okay. And to think that, Game Pass is just going to destroy the industry is dumb. When you have a game like Ready or Not being in one of the top of the list, well, who does that benefit? That benefits the smaller developer, doesn't it? Because guess what? All the Xbox games are already on Game Pass. So those subscribers are like, hey, why not pay that money? Why not try it out? So who's it hurting? It's not hurting anybody. Stop acting like it's going to destroy the world. Maybe Sony should consider something like that. Okay. Maybe even if they go to if the premium quality go to $25, see what happens. They need to change something because it ain't working right now. And you keep seeing it. And then you look at the narrative now. Oh, they're going to bring games up. Well, what else are they going to do?
Exactly.
They're releasing one game a year. They told you that. Okay, so what? Everything else can be a third-party, timed exclusive deal? I mean, the timed exclusive now is going to be, Xbox will port over a 5-year-old game over. There you go. Okay, 5 years later, you get it. We sold more than all the games you got. Oh, how about that? Oh, that's interesting. So it's a bad narrative. Trust me, like we even had some in the chat already, like just they're crashing out. They don't know what to do. They don't want to listen. Okay, which sucks because we try to tell them. I mean, even BitCloud tried to tell them years ago. Okay, like this is happening. I mean, BitCloud's got more trophies than probably everybody in this chat combined. I wouldn't even doubt it. Okay, and he's just told them, and he like people are like, oh, he's just agreeing with them. No. He's told them without us involved. Okay, he's been on this show before. All right, but when we're not involved, he's still telling you it's gonna happen. And it's okay in my eyes, even if I was a Sony fan, to say, okay, a 5, 7, 8, 10-year-old game, why not port it over? Why not, help fund the new games that are coming? That's just my thought process.
No, I mean, it's a great thought process because what's interesting, if let's just say, for instance, Spider-Man is the first game that's coming over to Xbox, it's going to sell like gangbusters. It just really is. I don't care what anyone says. There's going to be people here like, well, I already played it on PC. You saw that Christopher Dring, or another guy that went into witness protection. That guy's nowhere to be found. And if you remember, just a week ago, when this news broke, before all of the craziness, he said, and I quote, that why would you, if the port was going to come, it would go to Switch 2 first. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so the Switch 2, great console. I play it every single day. Donkey Kong is kind of edging to my game of the year. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. But there are only 5 million consoles out there. So what you're saying is you're going to try and port this over to Nintendo's brand with 5 million consoles and ignore the 35 million Xbox Series X and S consoles. This is why he's not running Sony, because he'd run it into the ground. And again, another guy completely absent from the conversation, nowhere to be found, witness protection, wanted posters, there's a wanted poster up for him, and there's also a missing poster. I don't know which is worse, but they're both up on milk cartons, so get ready. Buzz Belvedere, Korkenstein and Chris Baum really knocked it out of the park, but I want to get your thoughts on this because Nate the Hate, whether you, again, I really want to kind of focus on this, whether you believe him or you don't. He is not the first one to talk about this, but he is certainly a more credible insider that is out there, or leaker, whatever you want to call him. He does have connections. Has he gotten it wrong? Yes, he absolutely has. But if you just look at his track record, he's gotten it right more than he's gotten it wrong. And again, your mileage is going to vary on whether or not you trust him. That's fine. But him coming out and saying this, I read the replies. The crash outs were actually happening in real time. Like it is completely wild to me that, and I saw someone actually say this. I wish I would have actually copied down the person's name that said this. It almost seems as if the ponies, meaning the toxic MFers of the interwebs that are man children that rep for Sony's brand, would rather see Sony go out of business than try and make money on IP that would actually sell. Because again, these are older IPs. Sony's in the business of making new money. They could take old IP and make new money. It's very easy. And what's interesting, and I think the reason why it is going to happen in abundance, is because all of the old IP that we're talking about, the Returnals, the God of Wars, the Uncharted collection, right? Last of Us 1 and 2, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, these games have already been ported to PC by Nixxes. The only one that Nixxes did not do, from what I understand, is God of War. That was another studio. I don't know who the studio was, but God of War was somebody else. They can take an IP and strategically, by the way, place it where The Last of Us Season 3, drop it. It sells on Xbox, right? They've already sold it 9 times to people on PlayStation and on PC. You need new money. No one's going to buy The Last of Us Part 1 17. No one's going to do that. But someone on Xbox who doesn't have it, or I have all those games, and I would gladly buy them again because I'm a gamer. Let's get your thoughts on the report from Nate the Hate.
Where to start, man? It's funny. Well, before I get into the Nate the Hate, it's funny that PlayStation people bought Xbox games that they used to badmouth all these years as being low quality or crap or whatever. They bought more of those titles than they did their own first party stuff. Like the only one that even tracked halfway decent from first party was MLB. And maybe it's because they decided, because a lot of them tend to have Xbox and they wind up having Game Pass as well, because they are the first ones to complain when that dollar deal went away. Since MLB was no longer in Game Pass, I guess they had to buy it on their PlayStations this year. So that's the only reason why that probably even tracked. But all jokes aside, it's funny seeing this in real time. Nate the Hate has gotten a few things right. I think the one thing he got wrong as far as timing, I think it may come down to at the minute it may have been right with the whole Starfield thing, because I think he was one that was saying that Starfield was coming before Forza Horizon 5, but I have no doubt that Starfield's coming. It's just that it's not at the time frame that he had originally projected. But all in all, on the Sony front of things, he's been more accurate than a lot of the Sony insiders that said none of this would happen. I mean, even their devs at one point, like MLB, way back in the day, said, "Oh, it'll never come to Xbox," and lo and behold, that eventually happened. Insomniac even said Spider-Man will never come to Xbox, and we'll see with probably a later this year announcement when that happens. So I guess some people on social media will be eating crow, but I would say anything that they've already ported over to PC is on the to-do list for Xbox, and it's probably not that much more effort as far as making an Xbox version of that game. The PC ports are bigger, I guess, transition from the way Sony code is typically set, and Xbox and PC code is not that much different. There are some differences, but not to the extent that it would take a team more than a few months or so to finish things up, or to bug test and things like that. But Lego Horizon, I believe that's one of those that's, like you said, on the shelf and ready to go. It'll be a matter of timing. They might wait it out a year, which I don't know when it came out on Switch and stuff, but it'll probably be like a year out, and they'll put it on Xbox. But I'm under the impression if Sony has been watching Xbox, and it seems like they have, and they're moving like Xbox in some regards, the first one that we see come over might wind up being Ghost of Tsushima. What better way to have Xbox players, possibly that may have already, like myself, already have a PS5, get hype for Ghost of Yote, than to have, Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, I know I've already played Ghost of Tsushima. Would I double dip? More than likely, but it would be a way to kind of generate buzz and open up the doors to newly found, players for that series. And maybe they go that extra mile and pick up the sequel, whether, they have to wait some time for it to come to Xbox or PC, or they pick up a PlayStation 5, or they may already have one. So I think that one might be the earlier of the ports. Last of Us, if they can time it with season 3, would make the most sense. Whether you bundle 1 and 2, or you do some sort of like director's cut collection or something like that, I think that would make the most sense as far as selling that to Xbox players, because other than that chronological thing that they're doing as far as the update or maybe a repackaging, I don't think they could actually sell The Last of Us again to PS5 or PlayStation owners until the PS6 comes out, obviously. But I think they've beaten that dead horse at this point. But hey, selling on Xbox, I mean, if the game ran on PS4, it should be able to run on the Switch too. So we'll see if that gets over to the Switch 2 as well. What better way to play it portable without having to stream it from your PS5 on a PS Portal? That would be, another avenue that they can take. But as far as their red, or I guess you could say blue line to some extent, I think Astrobot might be that one. And it's not that they won't ever port it. I think they probably won't get around to it because even though it seems like it'd be a perfect fit for a Switch 2, I think a lot of Nintendo owners would purposely boycott that game just for it being not really a knockoff of some of the Mario mechanics, but I don't think it would do as well as a first-party Nintendo title over there. And then the only other one that I can see, and it's because that developer is slow, and I don't know if they would allow or help Nixxes in the process of porting it, would be Gran Turismo. And I don't know if it would do all that well on Xbox either. Just for the fact that we've been inundated with Forza Motorsport for so long, and it's had its times where it surpassed Gran Turismo in some of its features and all of the modes and things like that. But at this point, with Motorsport kind of winding down its support as far as the current model, could GT7 come over to Xbox? Sure, but if they haven't put it on PC yet, I don't know. I could see if they do decide to spin that back up for PC, possibly it coming to Xbox. But I think it makes more sense for them to put that game on PC just for the fact that from a sim racer standpoint, considering the mod community for things like Assetto Corsa, it would make the most sense for them to kind of supplant Assetto Corsa as the most moddable sim racer out there. Just short of having a subscription to iRacing or something like that. But Polyphony, they can't even give you more than 2 or 3 cars a month type of deal, or at least these past few months it's been 3 or 4 at max, compared to what Horizon does and what Motorsport has done for decades at this point. But it's rather interesting just seeing how the copium, the I guess the clips, we're not seeing as many clips of Xbox influencers these days because a lot of them were right as far as saying, oh, this will eventually happen. And they used to laugh and make fun. Oh, you'll never see these PlayStation games. And then the whole, Xbox Ally came out and they're like, well, Sony will block it.
Yeah.
Hey, did y'all ever think that maybe because Sony knew they couldn't block it without repercussions from Steam, that they were like, screw it. Why just focus on the 30% that we'll get through Steam? Or the 70% cut through Steam on a game that's probably already sold as opposed to a new sale, when they could just port it directly over to Xbox and get that 70% on possibly new sales for that game. Just a thought. And along with a lot of other things, the fact that, Xbox games are taking up most of their spots on their top 10 sold games. That whole Trojan horse thing that we talked about that y'all laughed at, it seems like it's actually a thing. I mean, if only MLB is charting, that's the only game that Sony is getting 100% of the revenue from you guys over on PlayStation. Everything else, they're only getting 30%. So what better way for them to try and recoup some of those lost dollars on other customers outside their ecosystem? Remember what Phil said a long time ago.
Do you mean this Trojan horse?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely shows itself now as far as it looks like that was the plan all along. But back to what Phil said a while ago, when people were dogging them about the only 4 games kind of thing.
Yeah.
He said you can either monetize your current customer base, which Sony has been good at. That's why they've been selling you remasters and remakes and getting you to buy the same content over and over again. And that helps them finance their future games or sequels or what have you. Or you can monetize other customers, meaning find people outside of your current ecosystem. So with Xbox, they already had that with PC, and then they decided to put some games on PlayStation and on Switch. So that gives them more customers that they can monetize outside of their ecosystem. It's good that Sony has now learned that they can do the same by putting games on Xbox and on Nintendo. That's the way you don't, squeeze too much of the juice out of your current customer base, and you find new customers. So it's great that they finally woke up and see the potential and don't leave those dollars on the table. I mean, especially things like Days Gone. That's a game that we should have already had a Days Gone 2 had that been greenlit years ago. But with that studio not having anything recent that they've produced other than being like a support studio to some extent for like Naughty Dog and such, what better way to get money out of a game that's just sitting there collecting dust? Like, real talk, if you're a PlayStation guy, chances are you've already bought all the PlayStation titles that you're going to buy that are the PS4 generation titles. Are you going to go out and rebuy Spider-Man? I mean, maybe if they do a bundle deal for Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Miles Morales, maybe you buy it again. Who knows? I mean, some of you bought Horizon Zero Dawn again, but all of that aside, that's you've more than likely, if you wanted those games, you've already purchased them. On Xbox, if we didn't already have a PS5, we couldn't purchase those games, but if they put them on Xbox, we can now purchase those games. So more money to the studios, the ones that you famously said you should support, which you guys obviously weren't enough of a support to keep everything exclusive on that box. But hey, I look forward to the clips to see what the comments will look like in that regard, because when people are right about stuff, it makes a lot of people kind of disappear and go into witness protection. Like, there's a lot of milk cartons with PlayStation influencers on them right about now, but it is what it is. I've rambled enough.